Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. For today's video, we have the greatest what if from every NBA team. Video by Austin Sweat. Look to his channel description below. Guys, let me know in the comment section below. What do you predict your greatest what if is? If you're a T-Wolves fan, it should be a pretty dang easy question. It's literally right in front of us, man. But also, guys, remember, before you get going on this video, I have a huge goal that I'm trying to hit this year, man. I'm trying to hit 500,000 subscribers going, big, huge goal out there by the end of the NBA season. So please subscribe, hit the like button, comment for the YouTube algorithm, all that good stuff. Thank you all so much for that. And yeah, let's get going on this.
What if Steph Curry was drafted by the Timberwolves? What if the Raptors traded for...
What if Steph Curry was drafted by the Timberwolves, man? Damn, what that team would all be looking like.
Or what if the Knicks actually signed Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant? These are all
and draft
questions
Zion.
We're looking at today. Almost every team in the league has a what if scenario where something they did or didn't do could have gone so much better and they were so close to it happening.
Right?
So we're going to look at every NBA team's biggest what if. For
Let's
the
get going.
Lakers, one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history has and will always
CP3?
be what if the Chris Paul trade was never vetoed. It would have paired up the best point guard in the game with the best shooting guard to go along with Ron Artest and Dwight Howard. I got no doubt that multiple championships would have been won, and it was a better deal.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see CP3 play with Anthony Davis. Like, there was a time where I was really hoping we could have seen that, but obviously it never happened.
For the Hornets in the first place, so it should have happened. The Chicago Bulls have two. What if Derrick Rose never got injured?
Yep.
And what if Michael Jordan never retired the first time? If Rose never got
at
injured,
least another
I
chip or
definitely
two.
think he could have eventually won a championship. Even if that defensive-minded team couldn't have done it, I think they would have made a coaching change or made trades to have made it happen. Plus, had he not have gotten injured, he'd still be in his prime right now. And if MJ
That's
wasn't
crazy
retired,
to think
there's
about.
a very real possibility he could have won 8 straight titles. But
Ain't that crazy with Derrick Rose, though, where it's like, doesn't it feel like he's like 40? But no, like, D Rose, I believe, is younger than Steph Curry. And to this day, it's like he's still like a good solid point guard. Like, despite all those injuries, it just shows you that like D Rose got like another level to him.
But now we'll never know. I would say that the Orlando Magic's what if is, what if Shaq never left? How many championships could he have won alongside Penny Hardaway one day? Well, the answer to that is probably none, because the season after
Shaq
left
Kobe
was when
finals,
Penny's injuries
sign me
started.
up.
So Shaq really made the right move by leaving.
Not that it would have mattered at that time, I guess.
And we could say, well, what if Shaq never left and Penny never got injured? But that's just a little too much. The biggest from OKC is, of course, always going to be, what if they kept their big three together and never traded James Harden? Well, we
Chose
never
Ibaka.
really knew the answer to that question, but over the years we've gotten to see glimpses of what could have been. When Russ and KD played alone together, Harden and Russ played together, and now KD and Harden are on the same team. Assuming OKC would have actually taken James off the bench,
Westbrook gonna get traded for Kyrie by the trade
KD
deadline.
and James are dominant now, and I even think adding Durant to that Houston team could have seen just as much success. But instead, the Thunder kept Ibaka. The Detroit Pistons haven't had a ton of success in their long history, but they probably would have had a bit more had Grant Hill not been clouded.
You know what? Props to Austin Sweat on this one, man. I was for sure thinking he was going to say Darko first. Like, I was actually going to start this video off by saying that, like, I hope he doesn't say Darko. I hope it goes with Grant Hill because, yes, that's, because he was injured in the playoffs, I believe, and had, like, a really bad ankle injury. I think the Pistons misdiagnosticated him. That's not the word. And, like, he got, like, an infected ankle, and he wasn't the same ever since. But still became a decent player for the Magic. But, yeah, props to him on this one, man. Okay.
Injuries. They got him 3rd overall 4 years after their last NBA title in the 90s. I don't know that they would have won any titles with him, but they were pretty bad throughout the late 90s because their superstar player that they had hoped for just never panned out.
They said he could have been the next MJ.
Blazers, oh, they have so many. It must be hard to be a Blazers fan. What if Brandon Roy, Bill Walton, or Greg Oden all stayed healthy? That could have been at least one championship, but there's also what if they would have drafted Kevin Durant or Michael Jordan instead of Oden and Sam Bowie. Then that definitely would have been multiple championships. The two what ifs for the Rockets are, of course, what if Chris Paul didn't get injured just in time for Game 6 at home against the Warriors, and what if T-Mac and Yao Ming never had
What
injuries?
if Luis Scola still played today?
Chance, if that didn't happen to Chris, that they would have beat Golden State and become NBA champions, being the only team able to beat the Kevin Durant-led Warriors. As for T-Mac and Yao,
bro, I feel really sad for CP3, man. I don't know why, man. I just like, I really want him to get a championship. I really do.
Well, the story of T-Mac's career is he was either always on a bad team or always injured, and Yao had a short career due to his inability to stay healthy. Houston had some nice rosters with him, but it's
love T-Mac, one of my favorite, probably one of my top 5 favorite players of all time. But I will say, yes, the injury stuff, you can't really control that. But if you are a great player, but you're constantly on a bad team, I think that says more about the player. I'm just saying. There's more, there's more to it.
It seemed like one of them always got hurt just in time.
Love T-Mac, by the way.
And McGrady never made it out of the first round. The only year the Rockets did, he had been.
Love the shoe that had the court in it, the wood.
The question they leave you with is, what if Len Bias hadn't have passed away? Boston had just won their third championship, and their last with
very sad story with Len Bias.
Perish in 1986. Then just a couple of months later, they used the second overall pick to select Len Bias, who some described as the next Michael Jordan. And if things hadn't have gone south, maybe he turns into an all-time great. Maybe the Celtics are even able to win another championship, and maybe he takes over after Larry Bird.
It is really crazy to think about, like, just any sort. You look back, like, well, yeah, any sort of what if, like, how much it would just change everything in history, man. It's crazy to think about.
Tires. But we also don't know, maybe he just would have turned into a bust. Infamously, the Minnesota Timberwolves had two opportunities to draft Steph Curry in 2000.
Johnny Flynn!
And instead used them both to draft other point guards. Now this one's not like, oh, if the Wolves would have drafted him, they would have been so good, they could have won a championship. I don't know that they could have, because they suck. When I think of this one, I just think of it more along the lines of the fact that we would have never gotten to see him dominate in Golden State. And pretty much the same for the Hornets. If the Hornets hadn't have traded Kobe after drafting him,
for Divac, so right?
Like, what could Kobe have done for Charlotte? I'm more just thinking of the fact that we would have never gotten to see his Lakers career. Now the Raptors had two insane trade offers in the past 20 or so years, and they turned both down. And we can only just imagine that what if. In 2019, when trying to trade Russ and Paul George, the Thunder actually offered both of them to the Raptors in a deal centered around Pascal Siakam.
Both of them?
But they said no. And seeing how Pascal's turned...
That, I did not know about this. I had no idea this, really? I mean, I love Siakam. I don't think it's bad as people say, but I did not know this was ever offered up. Wow. Okay. Hey, they won a championship. So, well, yeah.
Turned out
they're good.
They probably should have taken that deal, but it gets worse. In 2001, the Mavericks offered
Margiani?
a 26-year-old Steve Nash
Nope.
and a 22-year-old Dirk Nowitzki for Vince Carter.
Margiani was like
William
2006.
Davis. And Toronto, not Dallas, said no. What? For the Warriors, my personal biggest what if for this team is what if Kevin Durant never joined them? Steph Curry was on a tear before he got there. 2 straight MVPs, 73-9 season. Then he kind of just took a backseat to Kevin, and a lot of that steam went away. It was a little harder to come up with one for the New York Knicks, though, but I'm gonna say that there's this what if Kyrie and KD signed with the team.
I would probably say, what if they never traded for Carmelo Anthony? Because if you guys remember, they traded for him around the trade deadline. He was already interested in going to New York. They gave up literally everything to get Melo. Like, I think Wilson Chandler, Danilo Gallinari, some draft picks, a whole bunch of stuff where it left Melo without a basketball team essentially in New York, where it's like they could have just waited half a season and they could have got Melo and kept those young pieces also.
It was rumored to happen for nearly a year, then they got nothing. The same could be said about them getting the first overall pick to sign Zion, too. Everyone said it was going to happen, then it just didn't, and it was fun to watch. If there
Knicks
was
got roasted bad for that.
Indiana Pacers were going to win it all, it would have been the 2004 and 5 season. A few of their players have said it, and the team that year was great, but the Malice at the Palace happened, and Ron Artest, who was at the top of his game, got suspended for the entire season, so they only made it to the second round. I'm not saying that they would have won it with him, I'm just saying now we
Detroit
don't know.
basketball.
For the Pelicans, I don't
we
know
lost
if
to
the
the Spurs.
CP3 to the Lakers thing, but there really wasn't much else for them, and the veto in the first place didn't make sense. They got worse assets in the deal. I get they wanted
What if they
a
built
younger
around
team
Anthony
veto,
Davis?
but Eric Gordon just wasn't it. A lot would have changed for the Pistons though.
Oh, yo, what about Pistons? What if they signed Boogie Cousins, right? Because then Boogie, they offered him a contract and he got injured after that or something.
If they would have made the clear choice of drafting Carmelo Anthony instead of Darko Milicic, they won the 2004 title.
It was not a clear choice. It was not a clear choice. You gotta look back at the draft analysis for Darko. He ended up being a big-time bust, but as far as it being the clear-cut choice to go for Carmelo Anthony, like, people were saying that Darko was going to be, like, one of the greatest international players of all time. They were saying, like, next Dirk Nowitzki or, like, Hakeem or something like that. I mean, it's easy to look back and say, but at that time, in that moment, Darko was dominating overseas. He simply was. Yes, it was the wrong choice, but I don't think it was clear-cut at that point in time.
With Darko. So with Melo, they could have done that and so much more for so many more years to come. They were a defensive-minded team.
How many rings Melo got?
Perfect to give them the offense that they needed. The Kings' biggest what-if is obviously picking Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic.
Ooh.
The Suns get a pass because they had Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton paired nicely with
Luka and
the
De'Aaron
Kings
Fox?
had no
damn.
excuse to pick Bagley over Luka. Marvin's been a major flop in every sense of it, and Luka's turned into the NBA's next top player. Now, whatever the reason was, if it was because Divac didn't like Luka's dad or because they already had De'Aaron Fox, let's look look at where the Mavs are at, and then let's look at where the Kings are at right now. For the Cavs, I sometimes wonder, what if Kyrie Irving never requested a trade? Honestly, it's not a huge deal because they already weren't winning another championship after KD joined Golden State. But I am curious to know if James would have abandoned Kyrie and left for LA anyways.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about that. Him leaving
Kyrie did the right
himself.
thing to actually get out when he did after all. As for Atlanta, I don't really have anything. I could use what if they kept Luka over Trae Young, but seeing how great of a place they're in right now, it doesn't really matter. But the Philadelphia 76ers have a few what ifs of their own. In 1999, Tracy McGrady was this close to teaming up with Allen Iverson in Philly.
Oh,
The trade
man.
was
Oh, that would have been
Raptors,
fun. That would have been fun.
Toronto backed out last minute.
Oh,
and that
man.
saw himself and AI in the finals in 2001. They still wouldn't have beaten Shaq and Kobe, but at least it wouldn't have gone down the way it did. I also wonder, what if Andrew Bynum was healthy when he was traded there? What if Markelle Fultz never lost a shot? And what if they drafted Porzingis 3rd overall instead of Jahlil Okafor? Now for the Milwaukee Bucks, back in 2013,
Yo,
Golden
Kristaps
State
and
had to
Joel
trade
would have been
Steph
nasty.
Curry or Monte Ellis, and the Warriors actually offered Steph to the Bucks for Andrew Bogut, but it was the Bucks that said no. They wanted Monte instead because they didn't think Curry's ankles would be able to hold up, so it happened. We can't even feel bad for Milwaukee here. Then soon after, it was reported that they fired their entire medical staff, and seeing how things turned out, they definitely should have. What if the Brooklyn Nets didn't ruin their future with the trade to the Celtics? Well, it sounds weird,
Kinda
but
worked
they were
out.
much better off that they did, because if they hadn't, they most likely wouldn't have ended up with the super team that they have today, and instead would be looking a lot like the Celtics with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
You know, God forbid, right? You know you're in a good place as a franchise where your what if is like, oh man, yeah, you would have been stuck with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Oh man. Probably what, also Kuzma would have been on the team, Draymond Green maybe?
Because those were two of the picks.
Not Draymond Green, maybe Draymond Green, right? No, I'm thinking of something else. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
Traded away, so it's better for them this way.
Huh.
For the Washington Wizards, shortly before James Harden got traded to the Houston Rockets on the 2012 draft night, he instead was almost traded to Washington for their 3rd overall pick, aka Bradley Beal.
Oh, that would have switched
and
things
looking
up.
back, this would have been the dream scenario for OKC. In the original deal, they basically got nothing besides Steven Adams, but had they gotten Beal by 2017, when KD left, Beal would have been a very viable 3rd
Oh yeah, that Beal and that Beal and Westbrook backcourt.
option.
Sorry.
And had he been there,
Sorry.
who knows, maybe Kevin never leaves. And even to this day, with how well Beal's gotten, maybe
It's
they would have won
different,
the
it's
title
different.
on their own. If you're a Denver Nuggets fan, you
Can't
can't
help
help
myself.
but wonder, what if we never traded Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell? Denver's already the best young team in the NBA, but imagine if they added these two to the mix. But nope, they didn't, because instead traded them for Trey Lyles, Tyler Lydon, and Eric Green.
Jokic would never got his chance though.
Now, back in 2007, the Dallas Mavericks had a chance to acquire Kobe Bryant. It's very public by now that Bryant requested a trade that year, and with all the teams he almost ended up on, it's shocking that he actually
There was
stayed
talks of
on it.
Detroit
But that year, the Mavs
for
and
Rip and
Lakers
Tay.
agreed to a trade of Kobe for Josh Howard, Jason Terry, and 1st-round picks, but LA later backed out. Could you imagine Kobe and Dirk on the same team, though? There's also a few good what-ifs for the Clippers.
10,000
They were so close
fadeaways
to being great so
a
many
game.
times. In 2019, Kawhi Leonard almost convinced Kyrie Irving to join him there, but instead he declined, and Paul George joined instead. In 2011, they also could have
It worked out
drafted
nicely.
Kyrie, but they traded the pick in a deal to get Mo Williams earlier in the year.
Hey!
In 2004,
Mo Williams was a bucket though, man, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Can't deny that.
after his feud with
Can't
Shaq,
deny that.
Kobe verbally agreed to sign with the Clippers until Jerry West talked him out of it at the last minute, telling him that he didn't want to play for Donald Sterling. Yeah, that hurts. For the Suns, it's obvious. What if Steve Nash never got suspended for just getting slammed into a wall by Robert Horry? He literally did nothing wrong, and it cost them their best chance at an NBA title. It was their best.
Well, I don't
team they
remember
had
that. I don't
during
remember
run,
getting
and they were
suspended.
only a couple
Remember
games
getting
away
bashed
from the
into the
finals,
face.
but then Steve got suspended. I also wonder what would have happened to the Spurs if Kawhi Leonard didn't get injured by Zaza Pachulia. The Spurs were dominating Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, but then Kawhi gets ruled out for the entire series. If he hadn't though, I really think San Antonio might have won it all that year. In Utah, we gotta go way back to 1982 when they drafted Dominique Wilkins, kept him for a couple of months, then traded him to Atlanta for John Drew, Freeman Williams, and $1 million of cash.
Interesting.
Oh, you never really
Didn't
heard
know
of those
about that.
guys? Yeah, me either. And then honestly, I really couldn't find anything for Memphis. Good job, Memphis.